The window that faced floor 21. Floor 21, episode 6. I never set foot inside the building everyone keeps talking about. I never rode its elevators. I never walked its stairwells. I never met its security guard, or its cleaning lady, or its manager. I only saw it from my window. I'm a freelance illustrator. My work is mostly late nights, strange deadlines, and staring at screens until my eyes hurt. Last year I moved into a small apartment in a city I did not know very well. The rent was cheap. The view was not beautiful, but it was interesting. When I pulled up the listing, the photos showed a narrow street and, on the other side, the side wall of a taller apartment building. Nothing special. Old brick, some patched concrete, rows of windows. The ad said, "Quiet street. Good light. Perfect for creatives." The agent told me. No view, but lots of sky. That was not true. The first night, when I turned off my own lights, I saw exactly how little sky there was. My living room window faced almost directly onto the other building. There was only a thin strip of sky above its roofline. But I did not mind. People are good reference material. And I could see a lot of people from that window. The building across the street had 20 floors. I checked. The online listing for it said 20 stories, 2 elevators, renovated lobby. A review mentioned too many stairs between 18 and 20, but the rent is decent. I laughed at that. I had no idea yet that the staircase in that building had its own stories. For me, at first, it was just rectangles of light stacked on top of each other, each containing a tiny moving piece of someone else's life. Perfect for sketching. Perfect for not going outside. Perfect for pretending that other people's windows made up for the room I barely left. I did not know it was going to notice me back. Not at first. Not until I started counting. The way my brain works, I like patterns. I count things without meaning to. Steps. Stops. Frames. When I opened my curtains at night, my eyes always went to the same things. A woman on the 12th floor who always watched TV standing up. A kid on the 8th floor who liked to flick his bedroom light on and off, until someone came in and yelled at him. A man on what I thought was the 20th floor who smoked on his balcony and looked like he hated everyone, including himself. After a week, I realized I had started assigning little stories to them. After 2 weeks, I started using them as reference. I set up my camera on a tripod by my window and shot time-lapse sequences of the opposite building at night. It was good practice for lighting studies. My clients liked urban backgrounds. The frames came out like grids of pixelated lives. At first, that was all it was. Then one night, while I was scrubbing through a time-lapse, I noticed something that did not fit. Between the row of windows I had labeled in my head as floor 19 and the row I thought of as floor 20 there was a thin band of light. Not a full row of windows. Not clearly defined openings. Just a faint, horizontal smear of pale glow stretching along the facade, like someone had painted a stripe of light between floors. I thought it was a reflection. Maybe a car passing. Some weird camera artifact. When I scrolled back a few seconds, it was gone. When I scrolled forward again, it was there. For exactly 3 frames. Then gone again. I went back to the raw footage, not the compressed version. The effect was still there. 3 frames with a ghostly extra layer of light between 19 and 20. I told myself it was nothing. Compression. Sensor noise. Any explanation that did not involve the word floor. I closed the file and went back to work on a cover illustration that was due the next morning. No ghosts. Just a girl with headphones and a city skyline behind her. But the next night, when I opened my curtains, my eyes went straight to the gap between 19 and 20 on the opposite building. There was nothing there. Just dark brick and the black line of the concrete floor slab. I exhaled and told myself not to be dramatic. Then I set up the camera again. I do not know how many hours of that building I have recorded now. It must be dozens. Time-lapse is strange. When you speed people up, they look like thoughts flickering. Lights turn on and off like breathing. Smoke from balconies rises and cuts off like words being swallowed. If you watch the videos fast enough, it feels like the building is thinking, not the people in it. I started tagging certain sequences for reference. Rainy night. Snow against glass. Sunset reflection. After a month, I added a new tag. Between 19 and 20. The second time I caught the extra band of light, it lasted longer. About 10 seconds in real time. In the footage, it looked like a row of windows that had been turned down to almost nothing. If I adjusted the contrast and exposure, I could see faint vertical divisions, like frames. 8 or 9 of them. Too narrow to be full apartments. Maybe storage. Maybe some kind of mechanical level. Then I remembered the listing for the building. 20 floors. No mention of an intermediate level. No mention of rooftop amenities. I remembered reading, months ago, about hotels that skip the 13th floor. I googled the building's address. The city's public database said it was 20 stories tall. Construction year, renovation year, fire inspections. Nothing about a 21st floor. Nothing about an extra level. None of that explained why, when I scrubbed that clip frame by frame, I saw a figure walking along the band of faint windows. It was just a silhouette. Dark against the pale, glitchy light. At first it was at the far left, then a few windows over, then near the center. Moving in jumps with each frame. As if the person, or whatever it was, had been caught in the sampling and only appeared every second or third image. They did not match anyone I had ever seen in the normal windows. Too tall for the old woman on 10. Too slim for the man on 20. Not in the right place for the kid on 8. They were in a place that did not have a floor number. I froze that frame and printed it out. On paper, it looked like bad art. A hazy strip of almost light and a soft, incorrect shadow inside it. I taped it above my desk anyway. Sometimes the frightening things make the best reference. At least, that is what I told myself. I would have let it go if it had stayed on the screen. Screens lie all the time. But after a few weeks, the building started to change even when I was looking with my own eyes. One night, I woke up around 3 a.m., which is the hour my brain likes to wake me for no reason. I could not fall back asleep. My laptop was still open, its fan whispering softly. I got up, walked to the window, and pushed the curtain aside with 2 fingers. My apartment was dark, but the city outside was not. The opposite building was mostly black, with a few rectangles of yellow and blue where someone had fallen asleep with a TV on. I counted floors like I always did. Ground. 1. 2. By 19, I could pick out certain familiar windows. The one where a woman used to read in a chair by the glass. The one where a plant's leaves made slow shadows. By 20, I saw the balcony where the smoking man used to stand. I had not seen him in days. Between them, for a moment, I saw a thin, pale something. Not as bright as a real window. Not as defined. More like the suggestion of windows. My eyes tried to focus on it and failed. It was like trying to look directly at the floaters in your own vision. There, but not there. If I stared too hard, it dissolved. If I relaxed my gaze, it came back. I realized I was holding my breath. I told myself, just reflection. I lifted my hand and touched the glass of my own window. My reflection moved in the faint overlay of myself. Behind that, the opposite building stayed the same. The ghostly band of almost windows did not disappear when I touched the glass. It only faded a little, then came back. Over the next minutes, very slowly, one of the pale panels grew slightly brighter. Enough to suggest movement. Enough to suggest someone inside had turned on a light that was not wired quite right. A shape crossed it. A head and shoulders. For the first time, I felt strongly that whoever was in that knot floor was looking out. Not at the city, not at the street. At me. I let the curtain fall. On my way back to bed, I closed my laptop without saving what I was working on. When I finally slept, my dreams were full of narrow hallways and doors that opened on the wrong level. Curiosity is stronger than fear, at least when you are awake. The next morning, I told myself I had imagined it. I made coffee. I answered emails. I drew sterile, cheerful illustrations for an app that wanted to look friendlier than it was. By noon, the night felt like something that had happened to someone else. So of course, that evening, I set up the camera again. This time, I changed the angle slightly. Tilted it up, so more of the upper floors were in frame. I tightened the lens so that the band between 19 and 20 would be closer, but the edges of the building would still be visible. I set the interval to 1 frame every 3 seconds. Then I left it running and tried not to think about it. At 2 in the morning, I stopped the capture and crawled into bed. The next afternoon, I sat down to review. The sequence started like all the others. Lights on. Lights off. Small movements. Around 1 a.m., the area between 19 and 20 started to shimmer. Not dramatically. Just a slight shift in the way the light slid across the brick. Then, over about a minute, a line of faint rectangles emerged, like someone lifting the dimmers on a layer that had always been there. 9 divisions. 9 not quite windows. In 3 of them, something flickered. In one, a figure in what looked like a security uniform walking with a flashlight. In another, a woman in a t-shirt and pajama pants, holding up a phone as if recording. In the third, just the outline of someone holding what could have been a laptop. I paused the video, rewound, and watched again. Same sequence. Security guard. Woman with phone. Person with laptop. Each one appeared only for a few frames, overlapping a little, like they were all walking through the same space in different times and the camera had decided to stack their ghosts together. In the last frames before the band of light faded again, there was a fourth shape, nearer the edge. Shorter than the others. Shoulders hunched. Head turned toward my building. No uniform. No phone. No laptop. Just someone standing near the knot window, watching. I looked up from the screen and stared at my own reflection in my apartment window. At my desk by the glass. At my camera on its tripod. My stomach turned. Whoever that fourth shadow was, they were standing where I would have been if the knot floor existed at the same height as my apartment. I told myself that was impossible. We were across the street, different address, different construction. But when I checked the city records again, I realized something I had never noticed. My building and the one across the street had been built as part of the same development. Same year. Same contractor. One listed as 20 floors. One listed as 8. If you stacked my 8 floors on the side of their 20 and marked them carefully, my living room lined up almost exactly with the space between their 19 and 20. I closed the browser. The mouse cursor trembled slightly under my hand. You learn a lot about a place by reading what people write when they are unhappy. I started searching for reviews of the building across the street. Not the star ratings on rental sites. The weird posts on message boards and old threads. Most were boring. Noisy neighbors. Elevator slow. Manager hard to reach. But every once in a while, there was a phrase that made my shoulders tighten. Stairs feel wrong between 19 and 20. Sometimes the floor number on the elevator display flickers. Footsteps from the floor below, but that floor is empty. In one old thread, a former tenant wrote, I lived on 19. Sometimes when I looked out at night, I could see a row of windows under me that didn't match the layout. My friends said I was just seeing reflections. I moved. Someone had replied. I used to work nights in that building. If your window looked out toward the small street, stop looking. Especially between 2 and 4 a.m. No one had responded to that reply. The thread was years old. My building was newer, so I knew it had been written by someone in the other tower. Maybe they had even seen my window. I did not like that thought. I told myself I would stop. Stop filming. Stop counting. Stop looking at their floors. Just draw, sleep, repeat. For a few nights, I managed it. Then, one evening, the power went out in my building, but not in theirs. My lights died. My laptop went black. Across the street, their windows glowed like pieces of a different world. I had candles, but I did not light them. I walked to the window and sat in the dark, watching. It was raining lightly. Drops traced crooked paths down the glass on both buildings, lit from behind. On their 10th floor, someone moved around their kitchen. On their 7th, a TV flashed blue. Between 19 and 20, there was nothing. Then, slowly, a line of pale light unrolled across the facade. Not bright. Not steady. A pulse. Like breath. 9 panels. In the 4th from the left, a silhouette appeared. Not the guard. Not the pajama woman. Not the person with the laptop. Just someone roughly my height, facing my direction. I blinked. The shape blinked too. Then I realized I was looking at my own reflection layered on top of the faint band of light. Of course. My dark apartment was a mirror. But as I watched, the reflection and the silhouette stopped overlapping perfectly. My reflection moved when I tilted my head. The shadow behind the almost window did not. It stayed still, as if pinned to the glass on their side. Slowly, precisely, it lifted a hand. I did not. I checked. My hands were by my sides, fingers pressed against my thighs. The silhouette behind the not window tapped gently against the inside of the glass. Once. Twice. 3 times. I did not hear it, but I felt it in my teeth. I backed away from my own window. The candles I had not lit stared at me from the table. Across the street, the band of pale light dimmed, then vanished, as if someone had simply decided the floor was not needed tonight. My power came back on a few seconds later. I did not sleep at all. There is a point where you stop asking if something is real and start asking if it matters. Whatever was happening across the street did not change my rent. It did not change my deadlines. I still had to eat. I still had to work. But ignoring it felt like letting someone write in the margins of my life without reading what they were saying. So I decided to send a message. Not to the building. To myself. I set up a new time lapse. This time, I put the camera a little to the side, so that my desk and part of my own window frame would be in the shot along with the opposite building. I taped a piece of paper to my glass at eye level. On it, in thick black marker, I wrote, "I see you." It felt ridiculous. It also felt necessary. I started the capture just before midnight and let it run until dawn. When I reviewed the footage the next day, it was mostly boring. Night shrinking. Sky lightning. A garbage truck passing. Around 2:30 a.m., the pale band between 19 and 20 appeared again. 9 panels. In the footage, the paper on my window with the words "I see you" was clearly visible in the corner. In the 4th panel from the left, a shadow appeared. At first, it was just a vertical blur. Then it resolved into a human outline. It stood very still for several frames, facing my building. Then, in a sequence of tiny movements, it lifted an arm and tapped on the glass, just like I had seen with my own eyes that other night. But this time, something else happened. On the next few frames, the reflection of my own paper sign in the faint knot window changed. The words in my handwriting remained on my side, "I see you." In the ghostly reflection on their side, the letters rearranged. The shapes were smudged, imperfect, but when I zoomed in until the pixels broke apart, I could still make it out. "We see you." Plural. I sat there for a long time, staring at the frozen frame. I told myself it was just compression. Mirroring. An algorithm's guess. I saved the image anyway. Later that week, when a client asked if I had any more of those urban eerie references they liked, I almost sent it. Then I thought better of it. Some reference images do not belong in mood boards. Some belong in locked folders with names you never click on. I thought about moving. It is an expensive thing to think about. Breaking a lease. Finding a new place. Explaining why to yourself. But smaller things nudged at me. The way the power in my apartment seemed to flicker most often between 2 and 4 a.m. The way my own stairwell sometimes felt like an extra turn had been added overnight. The way, once, when I took the elevator down without looking at the display, I stepped out into the lobby and had the screaming sensation that the ceiling was too low, like I had arrived on a different version of ground. I did not have enough proof to take to anyone official. All I had were drawings, time lapses, and an uncomfortable feeling that my window was not just a one-way frame. I stayed. Freelancers stay where the rent is cheap. I added another book to my shelf. Floor plans and building codes, borrowed from the library. If the building across the street wanted to change the rules of where floors went, I wanted to at least know what rules it was breaking. One afternoon, as I was tracing a section drawing of a generic stairwell in my sketchbook, my phone buzzed with a new email. The subject line was reference, facing building. There was no sender name. Just a string of characters that did not match any address in my contacts. The email had no text, only an attachment. A single image. Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was a photograph, low resolution, slightly tilted. It showed a building. My building. The angle was from across the street, from behind glass, as if the photographer had taken it from one of the windows in the building I had been watching. Most of the floors were dark, with a few lit rectangles. In the middle, a window glowed brighter than the rest, on what would have been roughly floor 6 in my 8-story building. My living room window. Through it, tiny but clear, you could see a person sitting at a desk with a camera on a tripod nearby. Me. My stomach lurched. I checked the metadata on the file. The timestamp matched one of the nights I had been filming them. The software that had created the image was listed as unknown. In the corner of the photograph, where sometimes cameras leave their own file names or numbering, there was a label. It did not say Cam 01 or Cam 21. It said, View, 2020 firsts. I closed the image. I deleted the email. Then I emptied the trash. Then I unplugged my router. None of that mattered. Because when I looked up at my window, I could see my reflection, my room, and, beyond all of it, the building across the street. I counted, because I could not stop myself. Ground. 1. 2. By 20, my chest hurt. Between 19 and 20, in the daylight, there was nothing. Just brick. Just concrete. Just shadows that did not line up quite the way they should. I told myself I would stop. Stop recording. Stop counting. Stop reading what the building wrote about itself and about me. I still keep that promise most nights. But some evenings, when the light is just right and the sky is the color of old paper, I stand at my window and let my eyes unfocus. When I do, I can almost see a thin band of impossible space circling the other building, like a belt no one admitted to wearing. I still do not know who lives there. I do not know if they were people first, or if the building made them. I do not know if I have already walked through that space in my own stairs and not remembered it. I just know that when I draw cityscapes now, I always add one more line between the 19th and 20th floors. Never labeled. Never obvious. Just there. And sometimes, when I send those illustrations to clients, I get emails back saying, "There's something unsettling about the perspective on this building. We like it. Don't change it." This story is a work of fiction, created purely for entertainment. Any resemblance to real people, buildings, or events is purely coincidental.